What's a better way to articulate that?
Well, so I would say it depends on their age. And so the first thing advice I would give you is if you've got friends with like middle school and early high school age kids. Doing good. How are you? How are you,
Oh, I
Joel?
love your background. It looks awesome.
Thank you. That's my trusty home office. Been spending a lot of quality time in this office lately.
Oh man. So have I. I've been at home a lot and I've got the kids and everything, and it's like looking forward to but I get to talk to people like you. And so this is like really exciting. So I'm pumped up.
Well, there are a few silver linings to this dark cloud around COVID-19, and a lot more time at home with family, and so it's not all bad.
Was your team pretty used to working remote before this?
It depends on which part of my team, but we have a pretty easy time of shifting to a remote working mode. So a lot of our work is analytical and software and computer work. So it wasn't too hard for us to make the transition. They have to make some compromises, of course, because we don't have access to our laboratories and testing equipment. But it's a pretty resilient group, and we're figuring out ways to get things done and trying to hold it together. So I feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, my wife had a biology class and they had lab day, and it was like, a week ago, right when this all first happened. And I was like, how are you going to do that? She's like, I don't know. He might like live stream from the lab or something.
Right. We're doing a lot of creative things just to kind of hold things together. So, but it's a great display of teamwork too. I've really seen my team come together and work in a manner that's very supportive of each other, and it's really great to see. So, like I said, it's not all bad. It's the team has kind of lifted their spirits up together as a unit and working as a real tight knit team. So it feels real good to watch the team get through this time in the best way possible. But it is an unprecedented time, and it's the time when we need to not only take care of ourselves and our families, but we need to do everything we can to help society and help out, provide any assistance we can to the brave healthcare workers who are going into the face of the virus to help humanity. And it's just heartwarming to find the Ford engineers are willing to step up and do everything we can to support that by designing and supporting and making medical equipment. And we've got guys who are in the lab every day who they're taking precautions to be safe, but they're helping to do filtration testing, they're evaluating oxygen sensors, and they're working side by side with our manufacturing team to build out these extra ventilators that the healthcare system so desperately needs. And so it's really heartwarming to see that kind of support for not only our own team but for society. So really, feels great to be part of the Ford family.
We obviously don't like love difficult moments, but when we can respond, right? Like I agree, 100% agree. It's completely heartwarming. When I saw I was excited about getting to talk to you in the weeks to come to this. And then when I saw the news article that Ford was making the ventilators, I was like, yes, I'm going to give a giant thank you to Ken. I know it's like a whole team and it takes a village, but I just want to say thank you guys for that, because that's like, it's meaningful to us as humans. And then you guys did a lot of other things too. Like I read another article today that there's a whole list, and people can read it on the Ford website, because that's where I read it. It's not just like the one thing. It's not just the ventilators. There's a number of other programs you guys are doing to help
Yeah.
relief.
Yeah, there's really three primary things we're doing, and it's all online, so you can get the details. But we're making face shields using our manufacturing team. We're making the ventilators, and then we're working with existing manufacturers of N95 masks and other PPE to amplify and accelerate and increase the capacity of their existing manufacturing lines. So on all three fronts, it matters. So thank you for the kind words. I'll pass it on to the team.
Please do. Another area you're crushing it too. I saw today for the first time, we call it a Mach E. It's like a Mustang. I don't want to say a Mustang Tesla because that's not right. That's the wrong thing to say. But it's a Mustang SUV electric vehicle that's beautiful. I slacked it to my
Thank
producer
you.
Jake. I said, "Have you seen this? This is like, it's unbelievable."
Thank you. Thank you. We revealed it late last year, and we brought one to our booth in Las Vegas at CES, and it was a real hit. It's a beautiful vehicle, and it's the first in a series of beautiful, high performing, and of course environmentally friendly, no compromise, customer, human centric designed battery electric vehicles we plan to bring to market. So the team was really excited to see that come to life, and we're excited about it. So thanks for making that comment.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I want more beautiful cars on the road. I'm out there on the road,
Well,
right?
well, I have to jump in because it's if you when you walk up to a Mach E, you see, it is a beautiful vehicle. It's got this, just a beautiful Mustang, the design language that that's famous for the Mustang look. Uh, but what the beauty is more than skin, more than skin deep. It's beautiful on the inside too. This is the first vehicle we've brought to market that is built around our next gen electrical architecture, and so it's the smartest Mustang ever. It's got a next generation sync system in it. It's got a big screen with artificial intelligence integrated into the in vehicle infotainment system. So it's beautiful on the outside and it's beautiful on the inside, and we think the driving experience is beautiful as well. So it's a really great vehicle.
Oh, I was just blown away. And then I dug deeper and I was like, what other electric vehicles do they have? And I saw, and I don't know if it's like out or the prototype or what, but it looked like just a normal modern Ford F-150. Didn't look like an electric version, just looked like a Ford F-150, but it was electric. And it was like in the video, it was like pulling some train carriages or something. Yeah.
Yeah, let me fill you in. So we have in our plans to bring to market an all electric F-150. And our process for bringing new variants of our vehicles to market is to first build prototypes, and we learn from that, and we use those to help us design and engineer and interface with the customers and so on and so forth. But in the case of the F-150 being electrified, because it's such an important vehicle in our lineup, and because we're the leaders in work in the F-150 line being the best-selling vehicle in America, we felt it was really important to right up front, before we even bring it to market, to demonstrate that this vehicle, even though it's electrified, is a no compromise vehicle when it comes to towing capacity, because that's really important to truck customers. And so we wanted to just get that off the table and debunk any myths that might be arising in people's minds that an electric pickup truck wouldn't have the kind of performance and towing power and capability that our current gas vehicles have. And we did that train action to demonstrate that. So proud of the team for building a capable prototype and then pulling off that activity to show the world that this is going to be an electric pickup truck that's going to have no compromise.
Wouldn't it and then in the future, or I guess the best way to form this question would be like, the electric vehicles, don't they potentially have more towing capacity or like more capacity than a gas vehicle?
They have more torque and
More torque?
so more torque, so that the actual pulling capacity would be higher at the front end, which is where it matters. So yeah, that's right.
I want to take a Raptor and make like a Raptor E, because I think those trucks are like some of the sickest looking vehicles on. Whenever I see those driving down the road, I'm like, oh, look at that Raptor. It looks aggressive, but also it looks also cool. Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah.
Which one do you like? What's your favorite model of all of them?
Oh, that's like asking, a parent of multiple children, who's your favorite kid, right? I can't do that. But I'm a technologist at heart, so I kind of like to peer underneath the cover of the vehicle to see, well, what kind of technology is in there, and how is it going to change the experience of people who own that? When you bring your phone in the vehicle, how's it going to pair, and what kind of infotainment experience are you going to have? What kind of connectivity are you going to have in the vehicle? We're so excited that our vehicles are all connected now to the cloud, and we're busy building out the platform so that that connectivity can turn into new experiences after you buy the vehicle, right? So you can actually buy the vehicle and then later get an over-the-air update that gives you a new capability. And so we're hard at work building that for the Mustang Mach-E, because it's got the next gen electrical architectures. So we can actually build systems that can be deployed over the air that makes the Mustang Mach-E better than the day you bought it. And we're excited about
I
that.
love that.
That's going to be really cool. Yeah. And we're working on a bunch of other things that, aren't available yet for vehicles that are, in the market now, but will be in the next several years. That's where we spend our time building out the next generation tech stack for our vehicles.
I love it. I'm gonna pick one up just because, like, I've been looking at the EVs, and then when I saw that one, I was like, ooh, it was a smart move taking like the Mustang brand and doing it. Like, I don't know, and it was a good price point too.
We'd be happy to sell you as many as you'd like to buy. Well, let me talk about
Yes,
that a little bit. I mean, it's one of the things we thought was really important with the Mustang Mach-E was to change the buying experience too. So I'm sure you've noticed that you actually can put the order in for the Mach-E now, and then
I
have
almost
it
clicked it too before the
have it
show.
delivered later. Go do it. Just do it. It's
I will. I'll go through the experience for
you
sure.
won't regret it. It's we think that whole experience of buying online, clicking, it's what people are going to start to expect, especially from electrified vehicles like the Mustang Mach-E. And that's just the beginning. I mean, in the future, people are going to want to have other experiences that electric vehicles enable. And let me give you an example. Let's say charging. I mean, nobody likes to go to the gas station and get out of your car and
Yeah.
pull out the handle and stick it in and get gas, especially in the world now where we're trying to limit our exposure to surfaces and that kind of thing. That's not a great experience. So with electric vehicles, you never have to do that, but you do have to charge it. So what if you could like charge it without a touch experience? And so we're working on ways to do, yeah, like touchless charging, like inductive charging or robotic charge capability. We haven't quite nailed down the design yet, but we're working on figuring that out. So this is where we spend our time to figure out
Yeah.
what would make the experience of owning a Mach-E and the one that comes after it and the one that comes after that even better.
I like it, man. I'm super nerdy too. I've been doing engineering for almost 17 years now. And I just realized that relationships are so important, and then started this podcast. I didn't even start it as a podcast. I started it to talk about a book I was writing, and then it grew into a podcast, and then it's grown into my full-time job. And now I get to talk to people like you about what they're doing, building the next generation of technology. So I'm right there with you. I like to geek out. I'm huge on user experience, right? Like I want it to be seamless. I remember in 2000, I built my first house in like 2009, and I set it up, and I thought I was so cool because I had done some Bluetooth with my car that didn't have Bluetooth. So I used like the cigarette
Right,
lighter Bluetooth and built some
right.
stuff, a little bridge, had it play my Pandora. And my whole thing, the thing I spent like 3 weekends on, was getting it a seamless transition from when I walk out of my car to into my house, my music doesn't stop.
Yep, yep, that's really great. So I love that example because we use that as a use case for how we want to enable people to have great experiences like listening to music in your vehicle and in your home. We're also looking at use cases like how you can have your vehicle be smart, but also be aware of your home that's smart. So there's no reason why the two can't interact with each other. So we're working to figure out how to do that. And there are some examples where we've already gotten that worked out. The simplest one is, you can actually use your phone as a key to open the door now on the Lincoln Aviator.
Ooh.
So that's an example of how we realize people like design their whole lives around their smartphone. So why not enable that to be also a key to get into your vehicle? So we're working on a lot of different fronts to take those examples like your Pandora cigarette lighter example to the next level. So
You give it to your kids, and then when you revoke their car privileges, just disable their app.
lots of possibilities.
Lots possible. So, you guys made an acquisition of some robots. You purchased some robots.
Yeah, it wasn't an acquisition. We've been in a partnership with a company called Agility Robotics. And the reason we entered into this partnership is we really believe that package delivery is an important part of the mobility future. And I mean, there should be no doubt about that now, right? Because, now, more people are getting more packages than ever because you can't go anywhere. And so, people are getting groceries delivered to their home. They're getting packages from Amazon, from Walmart, Target, a bunch of other places. And so, in this future, when in this new reality, when you've got a lot of packages coming to your home, we want to be part of that mobility ecosystem. So imagine a future where the vehicles that are making the delivery are now autonomous. Well, how would you get the package out of the autonomous vehicle onto the doorstep? Because there's no driver to hop out and pick up the package and give it to put it on the doorstep. There are lots of different solutions to that. I mean, one that people have thought about is, well, what if the vehicle's got like a locker, and then, somehow you signal to the person and they come out to the locker and get the package. We wanted to think beyond that. What if you had a robot that was riding along in the delivery vehicle that could then hop out of the vehicle, grab your package, deliver it to the front door, and then get back in the vehicle, and then the autonomous vehicle moves on its way. So we started this partnership with Agility Robotics because they have a robot they call Digit that is a bipedal robot. So it's a stand up with two legs, and we're working with them to integrate software into that robot that can talk to the software in our autonomous vehicle, so they can work as a team to then drive up to a place of work or to a business or to a home, and then the robot could finish the task of doing the last 50-foot delivery. It's not in production yet, but that's why it's research. So we're actively researching this with Agility Robotics as our partner. And so to advance that research, we actually placed the first order of a Digit next-gen robot, and we now have two of them in our possession, and we're actively working to integrate the software into Digit so it can do this automated package delivery activity. So it's a pretty exciting future, and we'll see how fast we get there.
That is really cool. I actually saw, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I don't think there's many companies doing it, because almost 2 years ago, I saw a video on YouTube of a bipedal robot taking a package, and it was clearly it was like a prototype thing. And it was like walking up a driveway, and it was showing like how it was navigating the different driveways and the entryways, because there's a lot of scenarios, right?
Well, exactly. There are a couple of companies working in this space, and we're actually talking to several companies in this space. So more to come as we get a little more mature about our robotics capabilities. But let me say one other thing. Your listeners might be interested in this. One of the things we've learned a long time ago is the innovation doesn't all happen inside the walls of Ford Motor Company. That's why we do things like partnering with Agility. But we also have learned that a lot of innovation happens and a lot of really cool technology developments happen in universities. And the university right in our own backyard, the University of Michigan, has proven to be an outstanding partner. So I have to give a shout out to the University of Michigan Engineering Department, who've been working with us for many years. And recently we've amped that up in the robotics area. And so we'll be actually moving in this year into the new robotics building on the campus of the University of Michigan, so we can do robotics research with them to accelerate our activities in robotics. So we're really excited about that. We think it's going to really give us a boost.
So I get people all the time that ask me, I would say like parents, either with their kids in high school, or just kids that are out of high school and in their first couple years of college, asking me, how they progress in their career and like what to look for. And some of the times I've suggested, them taking a look at those types of programs, like when companies do partnerships with universities. What's a better way to articulate that? Like if I wanted to say to someone, yeah, you're interested in this AI and driving and robotics, you should go to Michigan's program with Ford. Like, how do I articulate that?
Well, so I would say it depends on their age. And so the first thing advice I would give you is if you've got friends with like middle school and early high school age kids, I would encourage them to get involved in high school and middle school STEM programs, where those programs are sponsored by companies like Ford. Our competitors sponsor programs too, and our suppliers sponsor programs, and universities have programs. So I would really encourage them to get involved. One of our favorite programs, we recently became one of the corporate sponsors of the program called First Robotics. It's a national program to introduce kids to the science and the technology of robotics. But more importantly, what they do is they teach kids how they need to work in teams and how the discipline of engineering works. Another program we really like is one that's run out of the San Jose Tech Interactive Museum in San Jose. And they've got a program where they also bring middle school and high school kids in. They give them a challenge and they have them work on teams to solve that challenge. And in the process, they learn the experience of how to do engineering, and they learn teamwork, and they get mentored by engineers that volunteer to work with the museum. So these are just two examples. The Michigan Science Center does things like that. So I would encourage them to get involved in things like that. And then as they get older, encourage them to do internships at companies like Ford. We hire dozens of interns every summer, and other companies in Southeast Michigan do the same, and in fact, all over the nation. So those internships will give them exposure to engineers that work on engineering problems. And then after they've had some STEM activity, they had internships, then they'll have the bug, I think, and they'll go, now you're well prepared, and would be a great candidate to go to a university like the University of Michigan, or it's not just Michigan, Georgia Tech, UCLA, University of Texas, Carnegie Mellon. I mean, I can name a bunch. There are some outstanding engineering programs in the country, and all of them are eager to have the best and brightest students apply to those programs. So I think it's a progression, and toward the end of that progression, they could apply to engineering schools, and that's the way you feed the pipeline. I'm very passionate about STEM. I think we've got to get more kids interested in science and technology, engineering and math at an early age, and we've got to show them that it's fun. It's not bad to be a geek. It's cool to be a geek. If you go to a First Robotics event, it looks like I call it this. It's been called the Super Bowl for nerds. People are screaming and yelling, and they're like high-fiving each other as they finish an exercise. It's really a lot of fun, and that's what it's going to take to get this country filled with the kind of talent to keep us successful and vibrant.
Oh, I fully agree. And I'm a huge fan of STEM, and my brother is a physician and my sister's a science teacher. Oh, I'm going to show you something real quick.
All right, cool. What do you got?
All right. So we had started this charity because you brought up STEM. So it's called the Princess Physicist. We did some children's STEM books because I was having some kids, and we wanted to get them interested in STEM and stuff. And this is about a princess who gets stuck in a tower, but instead of a guy coming to save her, she finds a book on physics under the bed and saves herself.
I love it.
Isn't that great?
That's awesome. Congratulations on doing that. That's stuff like that that's going to make a difference. So thank you for that.
Right? Yes, we just printed up. My mom had like randomly gotten sick and passed away in a very short period of time.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I know, but just like the coronavirus situation where it's like there's a negative, but you flip it to a positive, right? So she
Right.
had left us $25,000, like between the three of us. And I said, guys, I'm having kids. And I went and tracked down one of the Disney artist people online and like had them do the artwork. And I wrote the story. And then we printed up 10,000 copies and then formed a 501c3 and then donated them to homeless pregnant women shelters and foster families and stuff like that.
That is so cool. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that story. That's very heartwarming. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's like the type of stuff I like to do. And so when I was reading your history and checking you out through LinkedIn and your bio and stuff, I was like, this guy's like my type of people. You do hard work, you do smart work. I saw you have a degree in nuclear engineering.
That's correct. That's correct.
That sounds like some cool nerd stuff. What did you get to work on there?
Well, nuclear engineering is kind of it's like a smorgasbord of engineering. It teaches a little bit of everything because it's intended to create engineers that know how to harness the power of nuclear energy to work at a nuclear power plant or in a research lab, working on nuclear weapons. And I started my career working at a national security lab called Sandia National Laboratories, and I was working on nuclear safety for power plants. And I'm so glad I did that because it taught me how to work in lots of different dimensions of this engineering discipline. I worked on, I did a lot of thermodynamics work. I did a lot of computer development work. I did control theory work. It taught me about advanced materials because, things go wrong like really bad in a nuclear plant when you have an accident. So I learned a lot about lots of different dimensions of engineering and computer science. And that equipped me well for the transitions that I went through in my career. As I'm making myself sound incredibly old by saying when the internet happened. But, I was actually in the workforce when the internet happened, and it was just like, wow, what do we do with this thing, right? And so I learned how to harness the power of computing in an internet world, and eventually became a CIO, and that taught me how to help a bunch of other people, and it all just kind of worked. So I'm glad I had that nuclear background because it prepared me for having a very diverse career.
It also just sounds cool because a lot of people I talk to, it's like, oh, and master's in engineering, but you've got like nuclear engineering, and that's just like a little thing that stands out. That just it sound like I know it sounds silly because we get crazy here on the podcast, but like I feel like there's like an added bit of like trust. It's like, oh, that guy knows how to engineer nuclear stuff. He's extra special. I love it.
Thanks for the kind words, but I'm really quite humble about my background because I work around some amazingly smart people who have just amazing backgrounds and capabilities and skills. They do things I could never dream of doing, and I have just the most humble respect for their technical talent. And quite frankly, that's what leadership is about. It's about being humble enough to know that you're serving your team that's solving really hard problems for the company and for the country and for the world. And I'm just really blessed to be able to work with a team that does that every day, like what we're doing to support the coronavirus response. And we're doing that in parallel to inventing the future of Ford Motor Company's vehicles, right? And it's just really humbling. And I just feel so honored to have had a background in the past that landed me in a role where I can just support and enable and sponsor such amazing work.
So when you get to work with such amazing people, right, and you have this high performing team, and a lot of pride for that team and you just know that they're brilliant. How as a leader, how do you curate an environment or how do you set them up for success?
Yeah, so there's a couple things I would share with you and your listeners. The first would be, uh, you really have to empower people to feel like they can bring their best. So, um, you know, be clear about what you're expecting them to own. And so I'm very clear with my team that they own these decisions. I'm not here to decide for you. I'm here to just set the tone and to help you and your colleagues come to a point of view around a vision. But then you are empowered to execute that vision. And if you're clear about that, people will just run with it. They'll outdo themselves because they feel like they really own it. And then the second thing I'd say is you do have to provide an environment um, where it's safe to bring ideas and it's safe to speak up. And the first time you shoot somebody down for offering an idea because you think it's dumb, then they won't bring the next idea. So I try to always take the view of, hey, there's no bad idea. Now, there are only ideas that don't work out after you've fully explored them. All right. And there's a really important difference between the two. Um, so, um, so I think I always start with those two. And then the third thing I would share would be that, you have to have some fun too. People want to work. People work for people, not companies. Is what I've learned. And so if you put a team together where you really have an environment where it's kind of enjoyable, you like the people around you. So the way I would say it is, if you should be able to name something that you admire about everybody on your team. All right, that's the way I would say it. And then remind yourself about that when you're interacting with them. I admire you because you've got this trait. So I want to be around you, and I want to see that part of you come forward and blossom. And people react to that in a positive way. So it really brings energy to the team. But that doesn't mean it's not hard work, right? So you also have to give people challenging work. I find that when you're leading technical teams, they work for people, so they want to be in an enjoyable environment. They want to be empowered. They want to feel like the environment is trustworthy, so they can speak up and offer ideas. And then lastly, they want to work on things that matter. They want to work on important work that matter, and they want to see that their work really turns into something that's going to influence outcomes. So if you do all those things and you're competitive in pay, you're going to have a great team. You're going to have a good experience.
Do you do a lot of public speaking? Do you get to get out there at different conferences and share this type of knowledge?
I do a lot of public speaking. Yes.
Good. Yeah, I vote you do more. That's good. It's beautiful information. And that's why I love, getting you to come here and share it, because now we can just amplify it out to everybody.
Well, it's my pleasure to do that. So thank you for inviting me into your podcast.
Dude, this is amazing. I one more topic that I want to talk about, or just hear a little bit more about, because it really caught my interest. I read an article that you had written about mass navigation, and I'd never thought about that before. It was a really interesting concept. Can you share with me what's going on in mass navigation?
Mass navigation. I'm not sure I know what you're referring to be honest with you.
It was an article that I was reading about, like people, Ford was working on it with Microsoft. And
Okay. I know what you're
GPS coordinates.
Got it. I know which one you're talking about. Yeah. Sorry, I needed a little help navigating to the right topic.
I love it.
So one of the things that we're working with Microsoft on is the idea of optimizing how people navigate about in a busy city. I mean, you've had this experience. Everyone's had this experience where you want to go from point A to point B, and it's some really busy city, and the streets are all congested. You punch it into your nav, and it tells you to go this way, and the nav doesn't know about all the different aspects of congestion and all the other people that are doing the same thing with their nav, and how they're moving around the accident that's in front of you into the alleyway that's 3 streets around. And so you think you can go that way, but turns out everybody else is going that way too, and so it's not going to help you, right? So that's just one example. The science of getting people who are all in the same space at the same time to their desired destinations in an optimal way is a super duper hard problem. And the only way you can optimize that problem is to play out all the different scenarios of, what if Johnny goes this way? What if Sarah goes that way? What if Peter goes this way and Tina goes this way? And you just do that for the hundreds of thousands of people that are on the road in that moment, trying to get to all different destinations from all different starting points. And there's, like, if you have 1,000 people and 500 different routes, you've got an exponentially intractable problem that can't be solved on a traditional computer. And so what we're doing is working with Microsoft to frame that problem in what's called quantum space. And if you frame it in quantum space, you can then give the problem to a quantum computer that can optimize the problem in a matter literally of minutes, maybe even seconds, because quantum computers solve problems differently than traditional, what's called von Neumann computers. And they can solve that problem by applying quantum principles. I won't go into the details of quantum principles, but trust me, it just works and it's super fast. And so we've been working with Microsoft to frame these kinds of traffic optimization problems in quantum space so that quantum computers can then solve that problem. So we did a couple of simple test cases showing that instead of taking literally, hours to run a simulation that gets to an optimal solution, we could do it in a matter of seconds. And if you scale that up to a real size problem, you move it from you can't solve it to you can solve it. And so it's still early days, but it's showing enough promise that we're double clicking on that, and we're going to work with Microsoft on the next round of what might be possible.
Yeah, I love the quantum computing. It seems like there's some very specific use cases for it. Another area that I've been hearing about is like biological things, like when developing drugs and things, because we right now we have an abstraction of the molecules, but because the amount of data to actually represent the molecule is so great, but it happens to be that quantum computing can do pretty interesting things. And then I was blown away even farther to find out there's actually like quantum clouds. You could go spin up a quantum server now and play with the qubits. I was like, that's pretty interesting.
It's a pretty exciting time because we're at the very early stages of the maturity of quantum computing. And if you pay attention to it and engage in it during this early stage, when it matures, you'll be advantaged. And the simple example of the evidence I can give you that is a true statement is, I'll go back to my earlier comment, when I was around when the internet happened. Imagine we knew then what we know now about the power of the internet. How would we have designed the companies that we all worked in differently if we knew that advertising would be done through social media networks, if we knew that you could do all your banking online instead of driving to the bank? Imagine how a bank would have been advantaged by not building additional physical facilities, or how a company would have been advantaged by amping up their computer software hiring skills early in the game. So take that, fast forward it 20 years, and apply it to the moment in time we're at now with quantum computing. So you have to believe that even though quantum computing is still early days, nobody's really even built one yet that's at scale. You can't really frame problems without a lot of really hard work and getting a bunch of quantum physicists to sit down and reconfigure your software. Well, the same was true 20 years ago with the internet. People that were using the internet in the early days, you had to have, computer software, technology gurus sit with you and design how you're going to actually put this software package on the internet to move data from one city to another. It was hard. It was really hard, right? It's like drop dead easy now. We do it without even thinking about it. We just whip out our cell phones and it happens, right? You and I are doing a face-to-face interview on laptops and it looks like it's natural. It's like you're sitting right here in my office, right? It's like natural, right? Quantum's going to be like that one day, right? And so we're investing in quantum now because we know it'll be like that one day. So that's why we're in that space.
Oh man, I just flashed back when you were describing that to one night. It was like a Friday night. We were having pizza. My dad was showing me how he could program his watch. He had a watch that had like an infrared thing, so the screen would flash barcodes, and you could program the watch without plugging it in.
Right.
And then I was like, "What else could we do?" And he's like, "Well, I've been playing around with these 56K cards." He's like, "We could install 2 of them, and then we could have one dial-up dedicated to uploading and one dial-up connection dedicated to downloading, and we could upload and download at the same time. And I was like, what? That would be amazing. 128K, you know?
There's so many funny stories about the early days of computing, and that are instructive because it sort of informs us of what we should be thinking about and investing in now that's not yet mature. You know, one of my funniest stories is I had one of my first computers was a Commodore 64, and you know, I don't know if you remember those, but they had 40 characters on the screen, and that used to drive me crazy because people don't write sentences in 40 character lengths. They write sentences in 80 character lengths because that's the width of a sheet of paper, right? So on a sheet of paper in 12-point font, you typically can get about 80 characters. 72 is what we're used to typing on a typewriter, right? You type 72 characters. Punch cards had 72 characters. So the fact that the Commodore 64 had 40 characters drove me and my friends nuts. And so we both went into a Commodore 64 and hacked the BIOS so that it actually would take characters and turn them into digital characters that were half the size. And then we mashed them up. So we got 80 characters on our Commodore 64. And we thought that was the coolest thing ever. So you tell people stories like that, and you realize how far we've come and how far we're going to go.
Oh, it's so true. So true. It's interesting behavior of humans, because we'll sit there and say, oh, you know, it's not there yet. But at the same time, you know, you look back to when the internet was coming out, and then even in like the mid 90s, you would have all these now, you know, internet billionaires, like they were screaming from the top of their lungs, this is going to be the future. And the rest of the business world was like, right. And then I talked to people like Robert Suter, who spent his entire, you know, 30 plus year career in the qubit world. And he's just excited because the machines went from like theoretical to they have them and they can do like basic stuff on them, and it's progressing. And then I'm expanding that out 20 years. And I was like, it's going to be a fun 20 years, Ken.
It will be, and makes me wish I was your age. But you know, my grandkids are going to have a really fun time, and then when they get to be my age, their grandkids are going to have even more fun. But the reason I say it that way is because it's a good setup for something that I'm also very passionate about. My company's very passionate about is, you know, for our kids and our grandkids to have a great experience, and for us to continue to see these kinds of technology evolutions, we have to take care of this planet. And so sustainability is super important. And tech for sustainability is something we're really focused on. And so we stare at the technology today that we're working to put into our vehicles. And we have to believe that the technology will unlock opportunities around new propulsion that'll be cleaner, that'll be greener. And we see a future that definitely has the potential for a net zero carbon footprint around transportation. So we're working hard to develop those technologies and put it in our vehicles, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because we think people are going to demand it and they're going to want it. And so that's something that's really near and dear to my heart.
Well, thank you. Because every time I go for a run outside and I catch exhaust, I'm just like, I want the future to be electric.
Yeah. You know, even if every car we sold today was a battery electric vehicle, we still have work to do to get to net zero carbon. You know, because you know, there are cars we sold 5 years ago, they're still on the road. And so we need to think about it in a whole life cycle analysis kind of way. And that's how my team and I are thinking about it.
Well, I'm going to sleep easy tonight knowing we've got people like you working on these problems, man. I really mean that too. Like I get very excited. I get to meet people, and like, this is why I like that we're not like a 15-second soundbite or like a 2-minute clip, right, of what's going on in the world, Kent. You know, we get to have like these conversations, hear stories. I get to understand, we get a vibe for like who we are at our core. And that's what, honestly, that's what drives me to want to continue to do this. And whenever I do meet people like you, I get excited, and It re-energizes me. And then I highlight you green on my spreadsheet as people I want to meet in person.
Very good. Very good. Well, I appreciate the invitation. It was a great chat. Thank you so much.
All right, talk soon, Ken. Have a great day. Thanks for watching this interview. I hope it brought you a ton of value. If you liked it, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Tune in to the Modern CTO channel weekly for more amazing videos just like this one.